Hello everybody. The time has come to run Linux on your Windows machine and to run Jupyter Lab right. A few videos back, I showed you the long way. Today I'll show you the short way. There will be much elaboration in videos to come, but this gets the gist of it. If you have a Ubuntu 18.04 currently installed under Windows Subsystem for Linux, this will delete it. Your Ubuntu 20.04 is safe. I rely on that fact, and we'll show you more on that later. So first, visit mikelev.in/ux, Mike Levinix. I'll do that over here in my virtual desktop too. Go to the browser, pop that URL in. Oh, it redirected from a home page. Look at that. We're somewhere on GitHub. It tells you about that here. Control plus to make that a bit bigger. And instead of reading all about it, I'll just jump right to here. Right click in this window. If you're viewing it, select all, create a file named install.bat on your local Windows 10 or 11 computer, and double click it to run. You may have to override security warnings. I'll probably elaborate on that process, and that's why this is kind of a preview of this process. So copy that into our copy buffer and get rid of that now. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to do it right here on desktop. You right click, you do new, you do text document. And see how it's not showing you the file extension? That's one of the things you're going to have to overcome. So I just name it install.bat. But notice how the look of the icon didn't change. It still looks like a text file. So to solve that, Windows key E to bring up Internet Explorer. You go into View, Options. Under this window that pops up, you go to the View tab, and then you unselect the checkbox next to Hide Extensions of Known File Types. You hit OK and close out of that. Now notice how you can see the .txt extension that was previously being hidden. You click on that to rename it, and you get rid of the .txt extension, and watch, the icon will change. It's giving you a warning, telling you it might become unusable. No, it actually becomes usable. All right, so you get those gears. It tells you it's a BAT file, but that's not the end of the story, because if you just tried to double click it, Windows 10 does not like .bat files much anymore. So it's nothing in there yet. I haven't edited the content. So let's do that as the next step. You right click it, you select edit. And this is a machine I've never done this on before. So, you're seeing a very genuine experience. It happened to know to edit a BAT file in Notepad. It's fortunate. If it brings up that interface that asks you what to use, you select Notepad. Now you paste the script file, the .bat, the batch file you copied from that URL. You can read all about it. It's well commented. You save it. And then this is one of those things which Windows is going to insist you run as administrator. So you right click it, run as administrator. Another warning, you can't see it. I don't think screen capture captures this, but it's highlighting no right here. I am clicking yes. And you see the bunny. If you see the bunny, the process is working. Now that's kind of unreadable. So before I allow it to continue, I'll go to properties. I'll pump that font size up to a nice 20. Okay. And I'll keep that in the middle to remind you you're in Windows. And I'll hit enter like it tells you to. One click to activate, one to, okay. Sometimes it takes 2 clicks just because of, detection of what screen is in control. So I do in fact have a Ubuntu 18.04 on this machine from a previous install. It just unregistered it. That King Coyote instance is gone. I'm putting back an instance just much more appropriately named Jupyter. So under the Windows subsystem for Linux, it's first installing a Ubuntu 18.04. You see all the apt updates and apt upgrades occurring here. A lot of the commenting I make show in that big Figlet font as it scrolls. And I'll be covering all this in much better detail. It's just, I'm so excited that I got this working. My Linux knowledge and know-how from doing tricks like this on QEMU from a decade ago have really come into play under this wonderful new world we're in with Linux containers. You might be thinking Docker, but no. All this magic spellcasting stuff is best accomplished under LXD, the competitor to Docker, which came out a little bit later. It's less well known, it's less popular, but what it does is it lets you have control over the entire Linux system. Docker doesn't. Docker isolates you into these little app spaces. It contains you so that it doesn't, need access to the system stuff. It's more secure. It's better for App Store plugin stuff, like give me Blender without having to install everything required to support Blender. That's what Docker's great for. But I'm doing this to gradually migrate you off of Windows and onto Linux. So I want a full Linux system here that you can get into and you can access and you can do wonderful things with. But that's a little too much to ask. It's a steep learning curve. So what I do, and you can see Systemd is being installed there, one of the things that Microsoft leaves off of Windows subsystem for Linux. Jupyter Notebook, and these days Jupyter Lab in particular, is the stepping stone. It's the bridge between the world of Linux and Python and the world of desktop easy proprietary software that is a dead end career-wise, knowledge and know-how wise, long-term compounding results on your learnings, on your muscle memory. When you do it under a Linux context, usually without a graphical desktop, sometimes with, but more often when you do your learnings in the old-fashioned command line, and I know it's a bit scary here, just bear with me, you're not going to have to do it. I wrote this script so you don't have to do command line stuff. But when you do your learnings under the command line side of things, your knowledge and know-how is going to last with you forever. So, case in point, everything that I knew, everything that I learned how to do stupid Linux QEMU tricks under Linux, which basically let you double click and get a Linux on a Mac desktop, double click and get that same Linux on a Windows desktop. So your work was transportable between Mac and Windows right there. And in the final amazing feat, it was double clickable and running under other Linux desktops like QEMU or KDE, so that your development environment was totally contained and portable like a Noah's Ark, traveling from one platform. And there's Python 3.10 being installed. But your whole development platform was portable from, host machine to host machine using a wonderful PC emulator called QEMU. It's a part of Android development now. But it had a lot of shortcomings and required technical adeptness that I just didn't have, right? I don't plan on becoming a C programmer. And I did all this, just, bash script and that's all. It's all just bash script. Even though you see Python stuff on the screen, I didn't use Python in any of this. This is all just writing a lovely bash script, which, on one side it's batch, on the Windows side it's batch.bat extensions, and on the other side it's bash files, which are Unix script files run with bash interpreter. So I typically give them .sh extensions out of convention. Here's Jupyter Lab being installed. But I run them with a bash, interpreter. Right? So these files are being run by bash space install.sh on the Linux side. And on the Windows side, that it started, as you saw, by running install.bat. So one hands off control to the other. And I should do a before and after here with a web browser, because by the time it's done, Jupyter is going to be running in a web browser. Maybe I put that over here and do a really quick demonstration before Jupyter is really there. Localhost : 8888. Oh, I didn't beat it. Jupyter installed, done. So if I did this a moment earlier, that page would not have been findable. It just wouldn't be there. It's running for the first time, so you can see it's it's challenging for the password. And there's the instructions. When you're done with this, you just close it out, and now you have Jupyter installed on your machine that you can get to by localhost 8888. The password is preset to foo, right? So let's see, you just hit login, right? You'd have to type foo the first time. I let it remember my password. Now, here's an interesting thing. I just made it so that the config files survive between reinstalls. So you change your theme to Jupyter Lab Dark. And if you were to rerun that script, it would still be set as Jupyter Lab Dark. Now, running the server, and it's really nice, right? It sets you into a nice default thing. I'll make a directory here. Let's see, I use new folder, new repo. Okay, and now that's actually being done in a place that's also accessible by Windows. So I'll put that over here for a moment. Windows E to bring up this. I'll go into my just my home location. And in my home location, there's a repos directory. In my repos directory, there is the new repo I just made. So watch, I'm going to make a notebook in here. You'll see the notebook get created on the Windows side. And this is the same way in which I'm making the config files survive. I'm using the Windows file system over here to do preservations between installs. So if you were to do this multiple times, you'll never lose any of your work. It's persistent. It stays on the Windows side. So we'll go into the new repo directory. We'll create a new notebook. And see, there's the untitled.ipynb. If we rename it under here, rename my first NB, you'll see the name change over there. So we don't need to look at that anymore. You get the idea. It's prettier when this is full screen. Speaking of full screen, once you get this far, you're really in a browser and you got other websites and stuff interfering, and I don't like that. I want it to be full screen and as kind of uncompromising as the desktop install. So this is competing with the desktop installer that's now available under GitHub as Jupyter Lab-Desktop. This is better. This is better for a lot of reasons. But to at least get it to run as a full screen app, you go to apps, you go to install site as an app, right? This is a good name. Oh, it's the particular notebook. Well, I'm just going to rename that to Jupyter Lab. It's using the current page name as its name. So install. All right, now we can just, okay, changes might not be saved. That's fine. Leave. I didn't make any changes to the notebook. Pin it to the start bar. I don't like things pinned to the taskbar, so I uncheck taskbar. I hit allow. And then we can close out of the old browser. Here it is in an app thing. We'll close out of that too. And just to show you how you can get to that app again, I pinned it to the start bar. There it is, Jupyter Lab. Watch how fast this comes up, even compared to the desktop install. Those spinning circles. Bam, you're right where you left off, right there. So we can do the hello world in Jupyter, which if you're not familiar with, the hello world is one of the easier ones in computerdom. Hello world, put it in quotes, hit run, that's hello world. All right, so hello world under Jupyter. This is part of why this is such a big deal. You can do markdown. Hello world example, and that's a markdown headline. You can put that above there. So now you're mixing documentation with I'm going to delete this one. There. This is your documentation, and this is your example. Literate programming. Thank you, Don Knuth, and thank you for Jeremy Howard to bring back the popularity of the concept. You need to become, literate. This is your path to literacy. So I guess the last thing I want to show you, I want to show you so much, but one more thing I want to show you is that you can import sys, and that now you can do sys.version to show you You're on Python 3.10.7, right? The latest and greatest, right? Look at that, September 7th publish date, all right? So it's worth doing it this way just to get yourself on the latest version of Python. That alone is worth its approach. But let me show you another thing. sys.executable. Well, I think I'm still on Windows. Well, no, look at these forward slashes. This is planted in /home/Ubuntu. That's your Linux username. Under a Linux container system, mind you, not under Windows subsystem for Linux, but one step further under the LXD Linux container system under the Windows subsystem for Linux. So like Linux, it's all bottled up and portable between different host platforms. You're welcome. And then it's in something called Py310 inside your user directory, meaning you're in a virtual env for Python, so all your pip installs are really easy. You can just pip install right here. Need pandas. Pip install pandas. I guess you wait for those asterisks to go away. It's installing pandas big dependency called NumPy. NumPy used to require all kinds of special things, but now it's installed, you know, from import pandas as pd.dataframe. Give a little Python list here, 1, 2, 3. Data frame. Okay, so you got your, data science stuff coming together. And then finally, the last thing to show you, if by now you don't believe and accept that you're under the preferred environment for doing all development work and all automation work and all machine learning and AI stuff, well, maybe this will convince you. You go back to your launcher, you hit this, and instead of a notebook, you bring up a terminal. Oh, already you can see Ubuntu at Jupyter /tilde/repos. So a repo is called, a directory called repos under your home. The new repo that we're in, that's real nice. I'll make this a little bit bigger for the next step. Get rid of this thing on the left. Oh, are we in Linux for real? CD home ls, right? There's those directories I'm telling you about. Top. Oh, here's all the tasks running under your Linux system, under the top monitoring program that's included with Linux, showing your top tasks. It's kind of like Task Manager under Windows. And there's your systemd. So we're all set up for automation. There's some very exciting videos coming up. Now, like all things Jupyter, you can close out of all this stuff, and it's never really closed out because you just go to here, what's running in memory. You still got your terminal running. You can get back into your terminal. You still got your notebook running. You can get back into your notebook. You can close out of this. It's all gone. Well, no, not really, because of that same reason. It's running invisibly in the background. You go back into here. Look at the speed that comes up with. There's your notebook. There's your top program, all still running, active, just like it was. How can this be, you ask? Well, you're going to have to know, because if you restart this, if you restart your system, that service is not going to be running in the background. And I'm going to show you the trick of how to see the Jupyter server and how to start it from scratch if you need to. So I'll close out of that. It doesn't need to be running. I could have kept it running, but I could have gone to, say, screen 3 on the virtual desktop. And I'm going to bring up a PowerShell. Well, so you do need to do something or other inside command line to restart the service after a restart. So WSL-list shows you your installed versions of Linux under the Windows subsystem for Linux. Here we have Ubuntu -18.04. You can get into that by typing WSL-D for distribution, and that name exactly as it appears. Now I'm going to create a start script so that you can double click it and get it started. And this is a preview, right? So now we're actually logged in, and it's telling you to visit that location in your browser. But we're logged in. You can see we're Ubuntu at Diamond Age. Now from here, I can LXC ls for list, and I can see my running containers, my running Linux containers under the LXD system. Now, I happen to have some aliases set up. There's some very long things to type. I showed you that in previous videos, but once you got this far, you can just do LXD, LXC space, and then there's different things. I'm going to show you the one to, I guess, start it. So if it's not started, if you don't see that container running, LX, it's Jupyter, Jupyter, start, Jupyter start. Okay, that'll get your service running after a restart. Gives you that same message you see on login. So if you're following along and you're like, oh, I just rebooted and my app icon that I just created here it's showing, cannot find service. You open a PowerShell. You log in to your Ubuntu 18.04 that's sitting there, right? Using this command right here. You log into it like that, and then you start the service using this, and that will start it. But now that it's already running, you can do LXC screen, and that'll, oh yeah, no, it's Jupyter. It's LXC Jupyter screen. Right, LXC space Jupyter screen. That'll jump you right into the server. There is the server. Now I did two things here. I both logged into LXD and then I logged into the screen session under LXD. There is a ziggurat going on here, but this ziggurat of things inside of things does not detract from performance. So you can see the server running. So I can Control C it there. Shut down the server, yes. Okay, so it shut down the server and bumped us back out to Diamond Age. And now if we go back here, I should have left it running, but now if we bring up the app, you'll see what happens after a restart. If you see that and you're like, oh, this isn't working, what is Mike showing us? You go back here and you do LXC Jupyter start. Okay, that message comes back. You do a refresh here. And Jupyter's back right where you left it. Look, the tab's open. This it exited out of, but it reloaded your tab here that you had going. And so this is running Jupyter right. If you're running Jupyter on Windows side through either Anaconda or even the new and very impressive Windows installer, then you're a chump. Sorry. Notice any performance downsides? No, none. There are no performance downsides. And you get the Linux environment, which is just so friggin' important when it comes to things. You could apt install. You're not even limited to pip install. You could apt install and things like XML parsers and things that are outside the Python system, but in the Linux system. But that's a whole nother video. And in fact, all your app installs and all your pip installs, I'm going to have them so that they can survive between reinstalls. That's coming soon. There's got to be some stuff for you to look forward to. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again. And don't forget to chase the rabbit.